Osama is here, and today I want to talk about the progress trend analysis, and I want to explain why it is so important. But first, if you are like 99.9% of planning engineers and you have a traditional workflow in at your work, you're gonna probably do something like that. You complete the schedule update, you assign the baseline, you apply filters, maybe filter by WBS, and finally you will have something like that. Like maybe for an activity, you're going to have the planned versus actual. So that's the variance analysis, because you think that this is what everyone around you is looking for. But in this video, I want to talk about the applications of trend analysis and why it is equally important. I'm going to use Power BI as a tool to help me perform trend analysis quickly and effectively, and I'm going to explain why in a second right now. If you have just joined us, as always, introduce yourself in the comments section. Tell us where you are from, so others can know about you as well. And if you have any questions, you can post them in the comments. And at the end of my demo, I'm going to go over all questions and answer them one by one. So Bashir, hello Bashir. He has just joined us right now. Navid, can you explain a curve? We can have a workshop about that later. I know it's a very important tool. And by the way, if you can go to my YouTube channel, I have prepared the progress curve, how to prepare progress curve step by step, which includes also the S curve. So everything is there if you wanted to check it out. Muhammad from Indonesia. It's nice to have you, Muhammad. Sakar from Iraq. Nishant, hi. Alan from Abu Dhabi. Hello, Pradeep from India. Rufin, good morning from Africa. And RG from Philippines, based in Saudi. So I can see more people are asking questions right now, but I'm gonna save the answer to the end of my demo, so we can get to the point. And because I wanna, first explain the applications of trend analysis as a monitoring tool for planning engineers in the project control. Hello, Zuhuridiz from Kazakhstan. Hello, Muhammad. Hi. From Lakshmanan, my YouTube channel, you can search YouTube with my name, Osama Saad, and you will see that channel. Hi, Muhammad from Sudan. Okay, we have also Mauli from Ghana, Nishant from India, Senthil from Saudi, Santosh. Hi, Santosh, it's good to have you. Ajib from Saudi, Muhammad from Egypt, Tanka from Botswana. Hi, Moinuddin. Thok from Cambodia, Gani from India, Miguel from Peru, Jahangir from Dubai, Sukanta, India. Okay, so thank you all for attending. Maybe you attended at the right time, because we are just going to explain the trend analysis inside Power BI. I'm gonna show you how you can use Power BI in a practical way, as everything else I am sharing with you. So let's go to Power BI. This is my trend analysis layout. First, I will set up a filter. So what I'm trying to do right now is I wanna have a deeper look at one activity. It doesn't matter if you have 50,000 activities. It's gonna be the same process. You will see me right now perform trend analysis within seconds. So with a click of a button or within seconds, I will be able to perform a trend analysis. It doesn't matter if you have 50,000 or even more, it is just the same process. So first I will set up a filter. Let's go to ground floor and the podiums, ground floor, concrete, and column steel reinforcement. Okay, that's one activity. And let's have some insights. I want to highlight first about the number one mistake 99.9% of planning engineers make in project control. They will complete the schedule update and decide that maybe the activity is behind the schedule by 30%. And that's it, because that's the way it is. And we have to find a way to recover the delay, which is 30%. But, project control is like a story, when you look at any dashboard, you wanna maybe start with an introduction. You wanna hook me in the story, so you have maybe high-level project indicators like SPI for the overall project, planned versus actual, forecasted completion date, right? So that's the introduction. Then you're gonna give me more information, more interesting information to keep me engaged in the story. So maybe the same indicators, but for high-level areas, the main areas in the project, like concrete finishes or whatever it might be. Then you equip me with tools and dashboards to dive deep in any area whenever necessary. So for example, if concrete is in major delay, I want to see a dashboard for concrete so I can see where the delay is coming from. So as you can see, it's a story, And the better you understand the story, the better job you will do in project control. So when I tell you, let's go back to the same example that I have just explained a few moments ago. You have 30% delay in concrete. It's not a nice story. And let's look at one nice story, so we can gain some insights. So first, I want to show you the trend analysis and why it is so important in a practical way, of course. I can see the actual work accomplished on weekly basis. For that activity, it's obvious that I started in this week. I achieved 40% in this week. Then I achieved 40% in the week after, 5% in this week, 5%, and the remaining 10% here. This is my actual cumulative. So for example, in the second week, I achieved 40% of that activity, but overall 80% cumulative. The green line represents the planned. Okay, how much I should have accomplished as per the baseline. Sadly enough, many planning engineers report the variance. So basically what we can see here is the planned versus actual is 100%. The actual here reached 100% and the planned is 100%. And if you are like anyone else, you're gonna, like there is nothing to worry about, right? The activity is completed, so let's move on, but there is a catch here. So let's look at two practical benefits of why the trend analysis is equally important. It's even more important than variance, by the way, and it will make a lot of sense, later on. Let's look at the actual work. It took 5 weeks to complete that activity. As per baseline, it should have taken 3 weeks only, which is an alarm. Actually, it means if there is a slow productivity, slow rate of progress, something is wrong here. If you look at it, the activity is ahead of schedule, by the way. It started and is completed ahead of schedule. And many people don't bother looking at the statistics because it's ahead of schedule. There is nothing to worry about. I need to report delays only. But clearly, you have a problem with concrete because it takes you longer to complete that activity. So when we look at trend analysis, it means we can say something like that. We completed the activity ahead of schedule, but we have a slow rate of progress. It means that if we continue with the same rate of progress, we're gonna end up with delays in concrete. And you don't want to wait until this happens. Why? I am glad that you asked. In real life, I don't know about what your university teacher taught you about project control, but in real life, when you identify delays and report the issue to top management with proposed recovery measures, it doesn't the like, for example, if we have a manpower issue, the top management will not deploy the additional manpower overnight. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, right? You will go through the project manager. The project manager often doesn't have the authority to deploy the additional manpower, so they must escalate the issue to the top management. And in return, they will deploy the additional manpower. It might take 2 weeks. I am very optimistic right now. It's a process, because top management are busy. They have other important things to think about. So they have, of course, better things to do than looking at your issue in ground floor column stair reinforcement. It's still very important to you. It's a critical activity. It will affect all successors, but we have to understand, it's a fact that we have to live with, like our wishes don't come true in construction right away. There is a delay or lag. If you want the top management to listen to you and be proactive, you have to provide evidence. That's my experience. If you call someone over the phone and tell them that you have delays in concrete, so please increase maybe the number of steel fixers by 5 more, they will not do that. So you need evidence to support your claim. That's a nice evidence. Okay, some people wanna wait, and it's actually common practice that project managers know that there is a problem in concrete, but they wanna wait until the delay happens so they can have an evidence to raise it to the top management. Luckily, with Power BI, you can have the evidence in advance before the issue happens. That's one evidence. You can highlight the rate of progress, the slow rate of progress, and highlight that to the top management. If you are like 99.9% of planning engineers, you act on delays only. So you wait until you have delays in the project. You're gonna report them to the top management. What will happen is you will eventually get your manpower, additional manpower, but it's gonna take 2 weeks. But guess what? 2 weeks later, you don't need 5 additional steel fixers anymore. You want more because you have to account for the additional delays that occurred over these 2 weeks period. I mean, right now you might have delays, all right, and you need 5 additional steel fixers to be deployed right now, but it's gonna take 2 weeks, so you will not have 30% delay anymore. You're gonna have maybe 40%, because the slow rate of progress will continue to take place, and you're gonna need additional manpower even more to account for that delay. So I hope it makes sense. But when you have a trend analysis, you can highlight the issue in advance. We know right now that the activity is ahead of schedule, but there is a slow rate of progress, which will continue to happen. You must do something about it. When you do that, you can report the issue to the top management. Now they have the evidence, okay? And they will deploy the additional manpower within 2 weeks. But guess what? When you have your additional manpower, you're gonna start having delays. But you're not gonna worry about it, because you get what you exactly want. You get the additional manpower exactly on time. So you did not wait for more delays to occur before you take action. So once you start having delays, you get the additional manpower that you want, and you are back on track. This is effective project control. This is the way it should be. And that's why we don't get ahead in our projects, right? That's why we have more delayed projects. That's why we have more cost overruns, and we have lack of efficiency. It affects everything, It can affect like the whole country's economy, And I have mentioned that there are two benefits. I have just explained one of them. The second benefit is verifying information in a meeting, in a progress meeting, for example. I just wanted to take my time in this layout because it's one of my favorites, and I think it's very, very effective if used properly. So that's why I want to elaborate further about it. If you are in a meeting, let's say that you are the consultant, and the contractor is making a claim. So we are discussing the concrete performance. So in many cases, and I have attended many meetings, so this is a common scenario. The contractor will say something like that. We have applied the necessary recovery measures, and we increased the manpower, and we are back on track, okay? And we achieved 50% over the past week alone. In many cases, it's very hard to verify this information right away on the spot. You must do some additional work and analysis to verify that. So you have maybe to import the XCR file, assign baseline, and review maybe the previous week's update and compare it with this week's update, so you can see the difference and determine how efficient the contractor is. It's a process, it's gonna take some time, maybe half an hour to 1 hour if you are really good, by the way. So it's a process, and you don't have the luxury of time, you don't have the tools and the resources to perform this task during the meeting. Okay, it's a short meeting. If you don't have anything to add, we will move on. So in many cases, people remain silent. As a result, the issue is closed and we move forward. And it's a sad truth because in many cases, actually, you want to contribute to the contractor's statement. I'm not saying that the contractor is trying to manipulate or bluff, although it might be the case sometimes, but I'm going to assume good intention. The contractor doesn't really know, they assumed they have done good progress. And it's very hard to know such information by heart, even if you are the project manager. It's very hard to be aware of everything is going on. You are so busy looking at many tasks at hand. So it's very hard to be sure that the contractor really achieved 50% over the past week alone. But with Power BI, you can set up the filter in seconds all you need to do is to bring your laptop to the meeting. If we are talking about ground floor steel rebar reinforcement, you're gonna set up the filter in seconds, and you're gonna see the trend, and you will tell the contractor, no, it is not correct. Your statement is not correct. You achieved 5% only over the past week alone as per your schedule update. And this way, you demand the issue to be discussed further and not close it. And that's how you add value to the project. And that's how you help projects move forward. Because guess what? As a planning engineer, you are the only one who has access to such information. You are the only one who can perform such analysis. Nobody else can. Even if you ask the site engineer himself, who is monitoring the progress of that activity on daily basis, it's very hard to go back in time and have a measuring point like what was the exact performance 7 days ago. It's very hard. Human brains don't operate like that. It's not natural for us. Some people have the gift, very few of them, I have seen it, but it's not the common. It's the exception, not the rule. But human brains don't operate like that. We don't go on daily life having measuring points for everything around us and compare it on intervals. It's just very hard. So as a planning engineer, you are the only one who should have the resources to do so. The same concept will apply if you are a contractor reviewing the subcontractor's statement or performance. But as long as you are on the reviewer's side, you can do that. You can do it even in internal meeting. So maybe the site engineer has a statement that they have improved the progress. As a planning engineer in the same company, you can verify such information. So the second benefit of trend analysis is quick and effective verification of trend analysis. Okay, you can highlight progress issues and raise alarms way in advance, which is very helpful to everyone in the project. And this is something everyone around you will appreciate you for. Okay, and that's what I always wanted to say about project control. You gain recognition by your team by showing supreme skills. Okay, not by hope or luck, or asking for it. You have to do the work, basically. So that's something I wanted to talk about quickly this evening. And let's go over some of the questions. Let's see if anyone has questions. And by the way, if you still have any, you can write your question in the chat box or the comments section, and I'm gonna answer it. Navid, my P6 course doesn't cover S-curve. Okay, so first of all, if you want to learn the basic features of Primavera, you can go to my website, www.smartpmtraining.com. There is a free Primavera training for everyone who wishes to understand the features of the software. Your second question about the S-curve, you can go to my YouTube channel. I have created a step-by-step tutorial on how to prepare progress curve. Although there, I need knowledge in concurrent delay using window analysis. Hopefully we can do a workshop about it. It's a huge topic, by the way. Okay, so hopefully, because it really depends on the method you are using, because window analysis can be applied across many methods. By the way, we can have, like, if we are talking about the 29R-03 forensic schedule analysis, you can have window analysis in the 3.3, the dynamic as is. We can have window analysis in the 3.4 dynamic split. We can have it in the collapsed as built. We can have it in the time impact analysis. So window analysis, is not a method. It's an approach, more like an approach to a method. So all methods that I have just mentioned can operate through window analysis if you want to. And if you are considering the prospective analysis, like because time impact analysis can work in both prospective and the retrospective environments. By the way, we can use it in both. Very few people know about it, but like, for example, if you are using a prospective method like time impact analysis, then you can calculate concurrency, but it will be approximate concurrency. Okay, so it's a quite huge topic. Hopefully we can have a separate workshop about it. From Santosh, thank you very much. Appreciate it. What are the courses you are doing for Power BI? I wanted to follow a full course. If you go to my website, www.smartpmtraining.com, we have a comprehensive Power BI course for project control, because there are many places out there where you can find Power BI training, but the one we have is for planning engineers, how to perform project control using Power BI. There is also a data analytics module in the course. It's very comprehensive. It's everything, like everything you need to have, to use Power BI. You can go to my website, check the curriculum of the course, and if you are interested, please make sure to join the waiting list. It's very important because we open registration few times a year, 2 or 3 times a year, and we invite those who have joined the waiting list. Registration will open in August, next month. And if you have, I'm not gonna talk more about the course because not everyone is interested in that. But if you still have any questions, you can come back to us and we will answer all your questions. From Omar, can we do the live stream in Arabic? No, because in English we can reach more people, we can add value to more people. So that's why. Okay, and also we have Wasim from India joined us, and Salim from Nigeria. I hope that I did not forget about anyone. Ismail from Afghanistan, Muhammad from Saudi, Ramiz from India, Neil from Qatar. Rajnesh from India, Omer from Pakistan, Mohit from India. From Ghana, after observing delays in concrete and the need to add more resources, then how and who will tell the more resources to be added? It's a process. It will depend on the remaining quantity to be accomplished in the project and the expected, or let's say planned, because expected can have different things to different people. So planned, we know that. So for example, if we are talking about concrete, for example, we know we can determine the remaining quantity of concrete. the planned completion of concrete, and we will see, basically how many weeks we have left. Then we try to distribute the work, over the upcoming weeks. It is as simple as that. From Khalid, how to fix out of sequence during the monitoring stage and during revising schedule. Because of a change in execution sequence other than baseline sequence, resulting unrealistic delay of late date due to retained logic. So first of all, if you have out of sequence, retained logic is not probably the reason. Retained logic is innocent from this accusation. I think we should all use retained logic over progress override throughout the project. Uh, to deal with out of sequence. Okay, so I'm gonna first of all I'm gonna talk about the general approach and my own preference. Okay, first of all, the general approach. It depends on the contract. I have worked in a contract. It's FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulations. It's a contract that is used by U.S. government. So in U.S. government projects, they have this contract, and the specifications around that contract, scheduling specifications, demand to remove out of sequence completely. So it is something non-negotiable. Even though I might have different opinion, it's non-negotiable. It is in the contract. So first we look at the contract, and we have to do what the contract is saying. If it doesn't say anything, we can have two scenarios. One scenario where we can decide to keep the out of sequence as it is because it's healthy and it doesn't cause any problem. Sometimes it's healthy, and hopefully I can maybe prepare a tutorial about that because it will make more sense. Sometimes it's okay to keep the out of sequence if the logic does, because for example, if you have finished to start relationship and both activities are progressing at the same time, that's out of sequence according to Primavera. But if the logic is correct, you can keep it. It's okay to have a healthy out of sequence, which will produce accurate results. But sometimes, if you have finished to start for two activities, like A and B, but in real life they are the opposite, so B will start first, that's a disaster. It is something that has to be solved. It's non-negotiable. It is not healthy. You have to remove it. From Sumaya, can we incorporate critical path in trend curves? I haven't done it in this example, but I believe that you can if you have set a rule about total float, like for example, total float, for example, and you want to apply a filter, against this amount of total float, then maybe you can, um, you know, um, come up with some idea. But when you think about it, critical activities are often activities that did not start yet, right? Because that's what is causing the criticality. Because the this mood, when the activities did not start, it is what suffocates the schedule, and this is what is causing the criticality in the CPM, right? So it doesn't. I need to think about it, but on top of my head, it doesn't make sense to include criticality in trend analysis, because trend analysis is for activities that are progressing or have been completed. From Dr. Sharif, do contractors usually refine productivity rates during the course of the project? You can observe it, but you know, like for example, if you find it deviating from the project or the plan, what are you going to do about it? You cannot revise the whole schedule. It's not a good practice. So maybe the best thing you can do is take a note of the actual productivity rates and keep it, in the lessons learned. For example, it can be useful also in disruption claims because yeah, it's maybe if you can prove the actual productivity rates, by evidence and facts, it can support your disruption claims. The $1 million question: should we resequence our activities to reduce delay even if we are entitled for EOT? It depends on which side you are, because different parties will have different expectations, right? The client wants to mitigate the delay, the contractor wants as much delay as possible for the maximum amount of EOT he can get. So, um, should we resequence as per modern contracts? The contractor is expected to apply mitigation measures, not delay elimination, or it's a mitigation. It means you are not expected to fully recover the delay. You must do something about it. Okay. I don't think contractors should resequence the activities um, to recover the delay. And by the way, your question can require a very long answer. We can have a separate workshop about that answer only. Like, what what should you owe the client, and what are your boundaries, what are your rights. It's really a separate discussion. I think when the contractor wants to mitigate, like apply, or in the claim, for example, the EOT, if the contractor wants to mitigate the delay, so they can show that in their actions, past actions, because you have all evidences and facts. I'm talking about from practical, background, um, because maybe the client expects you to resequence activities so you can fully recover the delay. But I don't think it's a good practice. I don't think the client has the right to tell you what to do in that case, by the way, because you must know your rights and responsibilities. So before we answer this question, we must have a strong contract knowledge. Okay. Uh, when you are proactive in your correspondences, in your notices, when you maybe ask the client to take action and maybe remove the obstructions, on regular basis, that's an action toward delay recovery, right, or delay mitigation. How to show monthly delay trend? Does it need to feed monthly delay values from Yasin? No, it's actually straightforward. Let me show you quickly. So this is one chart. It's the project delays over time on weekly basis, and it takes zero effort to update this chart. So for example, that's the delay up to date, and let's assume that you have just completed the schedule update for the following week. All you need to do is to click refresh after you complete the schedule update, and the data will be populated in the model. It will update this chart. It will also update the progress curve over here. Like, it will update everywhere. That's the beauty of Power BI. معين, how we can generate custom reports. What kind of report? If you can give us more information about the purpose, we can better answer your question. Muhammad from New Zealand, good to have you. Zidani from Algeria, Khalda from Canada, Chico from Nepal. Hi, Muhammad Qureshi. Abdul Alim, is it advisable to change the links and relationships in the project while updating to make more realistic completion of tasks? Well, I would say it depends as well, because you are saying that you want to make it more realistic. If the current schedule is not realistic, then it's a separate discussion. Maybe we need to look at the particulars of your case and what's going wrong here. But if your intention is to reduce delay, for example, or another reason, and I'm not a big fan of logic changes in a way, like excessive changes. I'm not a big fan of it. Why? Because every contractor has its own means and the methods to complete the project. If you give the contract to two different contractors, each one of them will come up with a totally different schedule. That's the way it is. Even project managers have different preferences. Some people prefer different, specific sequence over another. It's very flexible. And we are trying to find a common ground. As a contractor, you initiate the development of the schedule because you are the constructor of the project. And we try to find a common ground. Maybe the client has some comments, we try to negotiate back and forth, but at the end, we have agreed schedule, okay, between both parties. The problem happens when you have excessive changes. Your changes will be subjective and intuitive, which will compromise the agreed plan. Yes, as a good approach, you can document all schedule changes and justify them. And if the consultant is doing his job, he will comment on that, because as I always say, one single relationship can take the schedule from order to chaos. CPM network is very sensitive to changes, very, very sensitive. It's not about the quantity of the changes. It's not about how many changes we make, because sometimes a contractor will come to me and say, I have only made 3 changes. But how significant they are. One change is enough to have everything upside down. One change is enough to let the contractor be entitled for extension of time claim, which he will not otherwise get. So it's really complicated discussion. That's why excessive changes are a flag. I'm a big fan of having. Of course, I accept the fact that we have to make schedule changes. I support that. But it has to be reasonable, it has to be justified and approved by the consultant/client to see where we are, because later on it can come up with a price to pay. Singen Gordon, could you explain how to estimate duration ahead or late, or how, like, if you are talking about the estimation of an activity duration, you can use reasonable assumption at the beginning. When you develop the schedule, you show expert judgment, and as a result, right now you have the productivity rate the activity duration, the quantity of that activity, then you can determine the required manpower. Now, in Power BI, I haven't seen the second part of your question. No, Power BI will not estimate it for you. You know, it's a data analytics processor. You feed the model with inputs. So, in a nutshell, this is what Power BI will do. Power BI will not manage the project for you. It's a software. We have to use our own brains to design the model, but we must know what we are doing. You know, it will not do magic on its own. um, you feed the Power BI with everything you have, right? List of activities, categories of work, schedule updates, planned dates, actual dates, activity percentage complete on weekly basis, total flow, like everything you have got. Then we apply data analytics principles to process the data. Only then we can have quick, which is the number one priority, quick, effective, and meaningful results. That's what we are doing in Power BI. From Newton, what is the application that you use to do project planning? I use Primavera. I have been using it forever. I am a big fan of Primavera, but I think it really depends on your situation, because some industries prefer Microsoft Project, some countries prefer Microsoft Project for some reason, like it's a part of the maybe culture there, or so the demographics will play a role. I use Primavera, I use Power BI, PowerPoint as well. We have to use it, but you know the problem is many planning engineers use PowerPoint to add bullet points only. You know, like it is not like that. You know, PowerPoint is as powerful as Excel, but for presentation purposes. So if you are not using PowerPoint fully until now, you can educate yourself. You can take a course in PowerPoint and see how animation works and how you can get the best out of the software for presentation purposes, so that your presentation can be more representative and professional as well. From Gani, in what situation exactly the contractor has to do recovery schedule, and explain briefly about that? Okay, that's a good question, Gani. You know, first of all, if the contractor is causing the delay, so if the delay is caused by the contractor, and if the delay is significant enough to make it harder to measure the progress against the baseline, then the contractor is required under the contract to submit a recovery schedule. If the delays are beyond the contractor or reasonable control of the contractor, then I don't recommend the contractor to submit a recovery plan. Because in this case, you know, like you are asking for, you are requesting the EOT, right? But at the same time, you are telling the client that it's feasible to complete the project on time. Because when you submit a recovery schedule, it means that, of course, some people make this mistake that they're gonna just, you know, recover the delay in the schedule and reduce some durations, and that's it. But they don't look at how feasible the changes are. So you might reduce the duration of one activity from 10 to 60 days, just to make sure that you have a recovery schedule. But at the end, it might be very hard and challenging to complete the activity within 60 days as per your change. So in, you know, in other cases, in my opinion, I don't recommend the contractor to submit a recovery plan if he is entitled for EOT, because you are saying that you are proving that by your submission that it's feasible to complete the project on time, which will produce a very unpleasant situation, right? Like on one hand, you are requesting for the EOT because you are saying that it's very challenging for me to complete the project on time. Okay, that's why I wanna ask for um, equitable adjustment, let's say. And on the other hand, you are saying that I have a feasible plan that I can complete on time. Sometimes the client will have a different argument. They're gonna say, just give me a recovery schedule so we can effectively monitor the progress. And I'm gonna promise you that I will award you with the EOT. But your counter argument might be, all right, if you wanna perform effective project control, just award me the EOT so I can have a revised schedule that will show the completion, in accordance with the your expected or revised completion date, right? So right now you are flipping the scenario. It's a counter argument because at the end we know that it is not feasible to measure the progress against the baseline. We have significant delays. It's very hard to use the baseline as a measuring point. So we need a different schedule. So the client might approach and say, give me a recovery schedule so we can use it as a tool. But you might also say, no, I want a revised program. I want my EOT award so I can prepare the revised schedule and use it as a tool. So um, I don't think nothing is wrong with rejecting the client's request about recovery schedules because you know your rights, right? And as I said, all of these arguments have something to do with your level of knowledge in contracts. That's why there are few books about contracts, so maybe I will share them later. But as a planning engineer, it's of course it's better to become expert in contracts, but you don't have to because maybe it is not your specialization area. But I recommend that you have decent knowledge of contracts, interpretation, and you want to know your rights, boundaries, and responsibilities, especially in communication, by the way, because not only about what you do, but for example, the argument that I have just explained is more of communication. So what should you say? And yeah, that's it. So I hope I answered your question. So okay, so no more questions. Okay, so yeah, I hope the tutorial was helpful to you. And today we covered the applications of Power BI in trend analysis. I hope by now that you appreciate the trend analysis as a monitoring tool and why we shouldn't focus on variance analysis. As we can use, of course, variance analysis, but in combination with trend analysis as well, because we want to see the past and it is equally important to us. Okay, so thank you all for joining and attending, and until the next live, bye bye.